So we'll start the next parak, and that's the 10th parak of Samach Zayin, one line before that. Nara Hamurasa. Namurasa sounds like we're learning Subas, but it's really talking about the Nedarim, and the issue is about who now a forest Nedarim. The parak before was talking about a forest Nedarim, how you could undo a neder by retracting it, by Charata or Pesach. And most of the parak was Mishnayos that spoke about what are the limitations of a Pesach. We talk about Nolad, and when it was a mistake, he didn't include that. He didn't mean that. Now it talks about Afaras Nedarim. Just to point out that Afaras Nedarim, the Gemara says, has no open source in the Torah. It's not a Perish Pasuk. It's even, the Gemara talks about, maybe it even has no remez. The one Mishnah Chagiga talks about Im Hamamashi Ismocha doesn't even have a remez. And then the Gemara talks about there might be some remezim, but that Afaras Nedarim is Mamash a Parsha Shlema, and that's in Parshas Matos. So I put on the screen because we'll be doing it a little bit today, the drushes and the psukim. So I put it on the screen. This is the beginning of Parshas Matos. Vayidaber. Let's get rid of this over here. Get rid of this more screens, please. Vayidaber Moshe Hashem Matos of Bnei Yisrael and more Zed of Hashem. That's how the Parsha starts. So Parshas Matos, and it talks about Afaras Nedarim. Afaras Nedarim, the word Hafara means to permit, to undo, to untie. Hafara means to nullify. And the father or the husband, we're going to see, has the power to nullify the neder, not because he finds a Pesach or Charata. He just says he doesn't want it. He nullifies it. And the father can do that, then the husband can do it. So just to go to the parsha simply, there are three No, it just says that it's nullified. So we'll learn, I guess we'll learn more details about it. The pasuk talks about, you can say three parshas. First talks about that he himself is supposed to keep his neder. Pasuk Gimel just says that a person makes a neder, a shvua, he has to fulfill what he says. Okay, fine. But then it talks about how the father could nullify the neder of his daughter. The Ishak, you see the neder of Hashem, if a woman makes a neder and asks something in the father's home when she is a youth, a maiden, binu. So then the father has the right to, if he's quiet, then when he hears about it, so then it's what's the word, yakum? It's mukuyam. It's affirmed. And if he nullifies it, so then it's nothing. Lo yakum. Then it's nullified. Hashem yisrach.
Is there a time limit?
I think b'yom shomo, on the day that he hears, it says on the day that he hears about it. We'll talk about if it means the same day or means 24 hours. I think it's going to be a subject. That's the first parsha, that the father has the right to nullify his daughter's nedarim. Here it says when she's a nara, means when she's a bogeres, when she's already 12 and a half, then not. And other point about a ketana, that the Rosh talks about that even if she's the year before, she's mamash ketana, then her neder is not a neder. But if it's within 11 to 12, so then also she can make a neder. Then also it's also included the father can nullify the daughter's neder when she's a ketana or a nara. The next person talks about if she's married. But then it talks about two kinds of women. It says then it talks about another parsha a few seconds later. The simple pshat in the pasuk might sound like, and I don't want to make it confusing, so don't take this. This is what I'm going to say now is the pasuk pshat in the pasukim, the pasuk pshat, but the Gemara is not going to go like that at all. The pasuk pshat is the real sounds like she comes into the marriage with already having a neder. So then the husband can nullify. That's what it seems to say. If the husband is quiet, so then it's affirmed. And if in the day that he hears about it, he nullifies it, so it's nullified. And then the third parsha talks about if she makes a neder when she's already married. This I just said not a simple pshat, but don't take it too heavy now because it's not going to be the Gemara. The simple pshat the Gemara talks about that she had a neder before she was married. She came into the marriage with a neder. The husband can nullify it, and basically Shana means that she made the neder after she's married. The Gemara doesn't take this. Maybe it's pashup pshat, but Gemara has a problem with it. The Ramban says that if he could nullify even the nedarim that she had before she came into the marriage, then surely she could nullify the nedarim she has that she made after she got married. So you wouldn't need the whole third parsha. Because of that, the Gemara learns a different pshat. So the Gemara is going to talk about how to dash in these psukim. So that's just the overview of what we're talking about. There's the father being made for the neder, and there's a husband being made for the neder. We learned already in we learned in the past Masechtas, Yivamis, Ksubas, we found out that there's a thing called an arusa and an asua. Arusa means that she's she's mukudeshes, or we call it we don't call it because it's all together by us. We do the kedushin and the asua simultaneously. But once upon a time they did it with a big interval in between. That they would do the kedushin. She's Eishasish. She gives her a ring. She's mamish Eishasish. If they want to break it up, they need to get. She's really married, but she's still living by her father's house until they're ready to get married, and then she moves in. Then she's in a asua, and it has halachic implications both about the chiyuv misa. If it's first a skila, then it becomes chenek, and also as far as Yerusha and other things, it makes a difference if she's an arusa or an asua. So here, the sukkah is going to be talking about when she's an arusa, and we're going to get talking about when she's in a asua also. So that's just the overview of the parsha, and now we go into the Mishnah. Nara Murasa, if she's a Nara, who is Murasa, she's not a Bulgaris, she's not already 12 and a half, she's still within 12 and 12 and a half. The Rosh has maybe also even from 11 also. So and she's an Erisin, she's not in the state of Nesuin, she's in the state of an Erisin. So then the father and the husband nullify her neder. Now, those words are not so, I'm going to say right away that it's possible to understand these words two ways. Doesn't mean that either one has the power to be made fair, or doesn't mean both of them together. So the Mishnah itself right away explains itself that you need both of them. And that's top of the page. If only one of them did it, the father without the husband, or the husband without the father, it's not a good nullification, only both of them did it. So now we know pshat in the first line, when it says the husband and the father are made for the neder, means both of them together. You need two nullifications in order to nullify the neder. The Mishnah ends off, it goes without saying if one of them affirmed it. So I didn't really stress that on the pasuk. The pasuk, there's also such a thing called to be mekayim a neder. There's a nullifying a neder, and there's to affirm a neder. If you're just quiet for the whole day, that also makes it affirmed. But if you actively affirmed it, you said the husband or the father said that he affirms the neder, so then it's already affirmed, and then there's no afar after that. We can talk about later on. There might be some thing called to retract an affirmation, but there's such a thing called the kiyum. So it says that it's only considered a nullification if both of them nullified it. If only one nullified it, it's not good enough. It has to have two nullifications, and it goes without saying. It goes without saying that if one of them affirmed it, actively, positively affirmed it, so then the other one nullification is not worth anything. You have to have both of them should affirm it. One of them is not enough, and kal v'chomer, if the other one affirmed it, then the other one cannot nullify it. So a simple Mishnah. So we have now the din of Naam Rasa. She has to, in order to get the neder off, she has to have two nullifications, both the father and the husband. The first thing was the kasha that the Mishnah repeats itself, which we already answered the kasha that it's not a repetition because you would not have understood. The first line of the Mishnah that says Aviyu Bala might have been understood that it means either one. So the Mishnah explains itself that you need both, and that's the most kasha and teretz Hanu Reisha Aviyu Bala Mefina. The rest says already in the Mishnah that the father and the husband. Why does the Mishnah explain itself again and say one without the other is not good? The answer is you would have misunderstood. Maybe it means either one, the father or the husband. So that it means both. You have to have both. And the Mishnah elaborates to say that one of them alone wouldn't be enough. Okay, then it says the Mishnah goes without saying that if one of them affirmed it, then surely the one nullification is not good enough. The other one even affirmed it. And the question is, so really, Ein Tzarech Lama goes without saying. So why did he say it? If one's nullification alone is not enough, so surely if one of them affirmed it, then surely it's not good. And the Tesis has the kasha over here that many times it says the Ein Tzarech Lama, like it goes without saying. We also say it. We say something, it says it goes without saying. So why do you say it? So usually it's not such a kasha. You want to bring out the point, but here it's worse because the one who affirmed it, he didn't nullify it. It's not just the kal v'chomer, it's saying that's included. It's the yesh b'klam b'sayim mana. If he affirmed it, he obviously didn't nullify it. Less. So that's the worst kasha. How come the Mishnah goes to tell you that if one of them affirmed it and the other one nullified it, then it's not good? Of course not. He didn't have two nullifications. This word tzrich l'misli seems to be redundant. They take it out. It already says it. So the answer is ki yitzrich lei kigon the hefer echad mehen v'kiyam echad So later on, the Gemara is going to say something. There's a thing called to retract affirmation. We had already retracting all kinds of retractions. There's also retracting the affirmation. If somebody affirmed, the father, let's say, had a daughter and he affirmed the neder, and then there's a way that he could retract the affirmation, and then it can become nullified. But that's the only way is by himself, the father or the husband. But here the chiddush is going to be that if one of them nullified, the other one affirmed, and surely at that point it's not good enough, because even if he wouldn't have affirmed, just being not nullifying is also not yet nullified. But then the affirmer retracted his affirmation. The one who affirmed it, he retracted his. Now you might think that now he could also nullify it also. Whatever he affirmed, he uprooted, and therefore now you can have both of them should be nullified. It only works if they both made for it simultaneously. That means without a time that one of their nullifications was not good enough. When one of them was nullifying, of course it doesn't have to be the same time simultaneously, it could be within the day. But at the time that one of them nullified, and then the other one affirmed, at the time that he affirmed this, and the other nullification is not good. So he took away, the one who affirmed it, took away the possibility for the other one to nullify it. Even if later on he nullifies, it doesn't make that the two affirmations, that the two nullifications are good. The Rosh brings down two shittas, and we've shown him, if now he's going to be, both of them will be made for, is it good? Is it, he leans that now it's too late already. Now, even if he's going to nullify it again, both of them nullify it together, it's too late. Since there was a time, once there was a time that the nullification was not good, because at the time that he affirmed it, the other one's nullification couldn't be good. So it's already not possible to nullify it anymore. So that's the chiddush that the Mishnah Gemara puts into the Mishnah. The Rishonim asked, why does it say Ve'en Tzarech Lomar? After you say this pshat, so it's not Ein Tzarech, now you do have to say it's a big chiddush. So they say that's why what the Ein Tzarech Lomar is. But in the Pashup pshat, it's Ein Tzarech Lomar, goes without saying. But in the Drash, it has a chiddush over here that once one of them was Mekayim, then it's too late. And even if you're going to retract the affirmation, it's still not going to be able to nullify it anymore. Okay, so that's the halacha so far, that Nedarim Uros has to have two nullifications, the father and the husband. And we saw a chiddush also, we'll see later on, there's a chiddush that you're allowed, you could retract a affirmation, but here, if they had both of them, the father and the husband, and one of them affirmed it, then it's too late. At that time, it wasn't possible for the other one to nullify it, and therefore there's no nullification, it has to be basachas. And since it wasn't, so it's not a good nullification. The rest of the Gemara today is going to be on the one question, what's the source? That's going to be the question, what's the source of this halach that you have to have both? And we're going to go into the psukim and juggle the psukim a little bit. The question is, what's the source that you have to have both of them in order to nullify? The pasuk, okay, the mechanic got in by mistake over here, but just to jump to the pasuk over here. This is the middle pasuk. Take off this. That if the woman is married, so it says that the husband could nullify the neder. That's the end of the Gemara. From here you see that you need the father and the husband. So that's really doesn't help us yet, because the pasuk says that if she's married, the husband is the one. If you read the pasuk on, that if the husband affirms it, then it's affirmed. But in b'yam shemo isha, it talks about the husband. If the husband will nullify it, so it's nullified. Where do you see the father over here? So the Rishonim say that the Gemara is mentioning with the parsha before. Right before that, it says the father. Here it talks about the pasuk talks about that she made a neder in her father's house before she was married. And it says the father nullifies. And then it says if she gets married, so then the husband nullifies. But read it all together. The father nullified, that even if she gets married, also the father's the one who nullifies. And then it continues and says that the husband, so you have both of them. You have the husband, the father before, and the husband after, and it means you have to have all of them. That's how the Gemara is darshaning. Maybe we'll able to make it a little bit more. If we make, what are we going to do? Make it green, the same as the other ones. We're going to say also is going also on this parsha of and also the Shammai Isha, and also the husband. That's what the Gemara dashes. It's not the Pashut Pshat, of course. The first Pashut Pshat is that why am I doing this? The Pashut Pshat is that the first parsha is about the father only, and the second parsha is about the husband. But the Gemara dashes that since it says Ke'ani Obi right next to the parsha over here before, and also the Vav, the Ran points out that the Vav is also going to be Vav HaMosif, that is continuing the parsha. Before it spoke about the father being Mefer, and now it says Ve. So that means it's a drash. Of course, it's a drash. That the father also is included in the second parsha. When she gets married, he's still around. The father's still around, and of course, it says the husband's around. So that means that you have to have both. So this, and the Gemara is learning that this woman here is Arusa. This case of the green over here is going to be an Arusa. And when she's an Arusa, you need the father and the husband. This parsha where it talks about her getting married, so you see that the father and the husband become the Nam Rasa Shavia Balam appear in the real. So the Gemara says, who says it's talking about Erison? If it's okay, we'll jump back and forth. Who says that this middle parsha is talking about Erison? Maybe it's talking about Nisuin. Maybe it doesn't have such a case of Erison. It talks about when before she's married. Then it talks about marriage. And who says that this word means Erison? Maybe it means Nisuin. And what's going to be? That by Nisuin also you're going to dash in this fancy drasha to say that they have to have the father also, maybe, or that, or what? Or, and maybe by Erison there's no such thing at all. That the husband is already enough of a husband to be able to be maker. Maybe it's talking about Nisuin. The Gemara is going to say that the next parsha talks about Nisuin. Means that what's the difference between the two parshios? In the Pashut Pshat, I said that this is talking about she came in with the neder already before, and this is talking about that she made the neder in her father's house. The Gemara doesn't see that. The Gemara says if this parsha is talking about an Nesua, this must be talking about Arusa. Or else there's only two psukim to talk about the Nesua. The Gemara doesn't see this point. She made a neder before, she made a neder later, it seems. So here, the Gemara says this must be talking about an Arusa. The Gemara says, who says? Maybe it's talking about a Nesua. The answer is going to be, you have the next parsha. We'll see it inside. Ema Hai Krab in Nesua, because the person talking about a Nesua, who says talking about an Arusa? The answer is, Imishim Nesua, Krach Minixit, and Beis Shana Dara. That is another parsha. The next parsha is talking about, the blue parsha is talking about when she's in Nesua. And then it says that the husband is the one who nullifies the neder. This pasuk must be talking about Arusa, else you don't have to have two psukim about the Nesua. And this one is where it says that the father and the husband together are the ones who nullify the neder. The Gemara is going to try to reject, the challenge, this pshat. Maybe the maybe they both talk about Nesua. Maybe the middle parsha is also talking about the Nesua. Everything's in Nesua. This parsha is in Nesua, and it says the husband could nullify. And this parsha is talking about the Nesua and saying the husband could nullify. And what do you have to have two parshas for? Maybe he wants to tell you in Beis Shana Dara that he only could nullify the Nedarim that she made after she was in his home. Not much the opposite of what I said. I said before that the parsha before is talking about Dafka, that's so much she had a neder coming on. When she came in, she came into the marriage with a neder. The Gemara doesn't see that. The Gemara says it doesn't mean that. And here it says she made a neder in her married home. After she's married, she made a neder, and that's when the husband could be made for. And if she comes in with a neder, he can't be made for. And the Gemara is suggesting that both psukim are talking about a nesua, and all the reason why the pasuk repeated it is to tell you this chiddush that you only could make a hafaras nedarim if she made the neder after she was married. But if she came in with the neder already on her, you can't. And not that the psukim are contradicting themselves. This pasuk of the real doesn't mean dafka that she came in with a neder. I don't know how you read it, but the Gemara is ignoring that the real might mean that she has already a neder. The more thinks not. And this pasuk repeats the parsha in order to tell you explicitly that it's only the nedarim that she made after the marriage. So if so, there's no source to say that it's talking about a Naam or Rasa, and that the father and the husband do a shutfis, they jointly nullify her neder. You don't say maybe it's talking about a nesua. That's the more's on the attack right now. The more is attacking that you don't see it's talking about this is an arusa, this is a nesua. Maybe they're both a nesua, and the reason why he says the pasuk 2 times is to tell you that only a neder that she made after the marriage. Again, the inside, maybe both psukim are talking about the Nesua, and if so, what do you have to have two psukim for? To tell you that the husband cannot nullify the Nedarim that she had before she came into the marriage. That's called Kodman. Kodman means the Nedarim that she had made before she came into the marriage. The Gemara answers, V'lav memela shamat mina. So these words are a little difficult. I'd like to say a simple pshat that I didn't see in the Rishonah, but just the words seem to be simple. I'll try a simple pshat. That even if you say that you're right, let's see these words. Even if you say that you're right, that both parshas are talking about a nesua and not by an arusa, it's talking about a nesua, and it says that the husband cannot be nullified in the dom she came in before the marriage. Okay, so what are you going to say? That nesua is somewhat a nesua. This pasuk is talking about the nesua. Okay, so by nesua it also says that the husband and the father are made for the neder. If that's true, so then surely an arusa also. If even in the surah the father has what to say, so then surely by an arusa the father has what to say. The Mishnah don't say like I said, but they say more a little bit dochak in the words. I'll see the brush over here. I didn't see the shot. I said I just said into the words, the simple words. But he says that he learns that the Gemara is saying that if you say that this pasuk is saying about an Nesua that he cannot be made for the Nedarim of before the marriage. So you do also see that you could be made for the Nedarim of after the marriage. So you don't need the first pasuk at all. You said both pasukim are talking about a Nesua, and the second one is to tell you that you can't be made for an earlier neder, but it also says you could be made for a new neder. So you don't need the second parsha if both of them are talking about a Nesua. So must be this one is talking about an Arusa. The words are a little bit not the regular way the Gemara would say those words. Means even if I give in to your pshat, it also I could bring a right to what I'm saying. I try to learn those words. That even if you say that it's by nesua, and the lach is that the father and the husband jointly made for the neder of a nesua, then surely you have an arusa. But iba yisema, you could say much simpler. Havaya kiddushin mashma. The word havaya, which says imoyosiyah. This word, Mojosia, does that mean an Nesua? Doesn't mean an Arusa. If she becomes to a man, is that a term that's referring to an Arusa or to an Nesua? The first terrorist was saying that maybe it means an Nesua. The more was entertaining the possibility that it's talking about an Nesua. It doesn't say an Arusa over here. But then the second terrorist says, no, these words mean Eris, and these words don't mean Nesua. Hayosi Elish, once she's married to him, consecrated, we say the word consecrated, Arusa, once she's consecrated, she's called that she became to the man. In Mayosi Elish, it doesn't mean only when she's in his home. The Nesua means when she's Beis Isha, but the word in Mayosi, by definition, means an Arusa. So that's how the Gemara learns the Psukim. This pasuk is talking about an Arusa, this pasuk is talking about an Nesua, and by an Arusa, it says that the husband and the father are jointly made for the neder. And this pasuk is talking about an Nesua, and here it says that they only can make the hafara on the dam that were new, but if it was an old neder, he can't be made for it. So at this point, the Gemara is happy. We know from this middle pasuk is talking about an arusa, and the father and the husband jointly are made for the neder. The Gemara says, okay, fine, but Ema they made for. Now the Gemara is going to ask, okay, you have these psukim that is talking about an arusa, and it says that the father could be made for. It says that the husband could be made for. How do you know that it means jointly? Which was the first Gemara we spoke about. Maybe it means both of them together. Even in the Mishnah, we said the Mishnah might have been understood either one alone, either one exclusive, either one individually. And the Gemara says no, you have to have both. If one of them did it, it's not good. The father alone is not good enough. The husband alone is not good enough. You have to have both. Who says? Even if I accept your drasha, maybe it says here that the father could make for the neder of the arusa or the husband. How do you know that the drasha is to say both of them together? That's the most kasha in short words. Ema avluchudei made for, maybe the father alone could, and of course it means that the husband alone also could. No, imkain v'asroi sa beisavia yaniosa lamali hashti yeshloma b'mokam oros made for avluchudei shelo b'mokam oros miboya. So it goes back to the first parsha, and the first parsha where it talks about beisavia. So this is the case where she's not married. She's not married, and the father alone is the one who could be made for. There is no husband. But if it's true that the husband could be mayfair even after she's an arusa, so why does the pasuk talk about the father being mayfair when it's bebeis avia, when she's not yet an arusa? It's not only limited to when she's unmarried, even when she's going to become an arusa, also the father will be able to be mayfair by himself. The fact that the pasuk talks about a parsha where she's not married at all, this case is so much not married at all. So why does it talk about that? If the father has the husband, if the father has the power to be mefer, even after she's going to come on arusa alone, he doesn't have to be a joint nullification. He can do it by himself. So then his power to nullify his daughter's neder is not only when she's unmarried, even after she's going to be consecrated, he'll still be able to. So the pasuk here wouldn't have spoken about such a limited case of unmarried girl. It would have said the father has the right to nullify his daughter's nedarim, and don't talk about beis avia, which implies that she's not married at all. See that inside? The answer is when it says that in the first parsha that she made a neder when she was in her father's house, the father has the ability to nullify it. Why do you talk about that? Makal v'chomer. Now he's saying that even after she's in arusa, the father himself could be mefer. So when there's no husband, when there's no orus, there's a question. Surely he could. So it must be that the time that the father could be nullified by himself is only when she's not married at all. But when she's consecrated, he needs the joint effort of the husband. Next kasha. Now the Gemara saying the other way. Okay, so you prove that the father himself cannot be mefer once she's in arusa, but maybe the husband himself could be mefer. Maybe the husband himself could be mefer. It does not need the father. The father needs the husband does not need the father. The kasha has to be explained still, because if the husband does not need the father, and the father needs the husband, so the father's not doing anything. The husband has everything in his hand, and the father doesn't have anything. So why would the pasuk talk about the father? He's saying in Rashi that the father is involved over here by the arusa. What's his involvement? He needs the husband. The husband doesn't need him. But the Gemara says that the nafkamina will be that the father will have the power to affirm the neder. You don't need his nullification. If he's quiet, the husband can do it by himself. But if he affirms it, then that will stop the husband's nullification. Maybe the father is a somebody. Not that he can nullify by himself, but maybe he could affirm and block the husband's nullification. So maybe maybe it was more one. Then maybe if the father does not affirm it, maybe the husband can nullify it by himself. That's the most kasha. Ema avli boy orus lechudei mefer. Maybe the father the father does need the orus. He can't do it by himself, but maybe the orus can do it by himself without the father. But if that's so, the father doesn't have anything to say. What is the father doing? The husband can do it by himself, and the father can't do it by himself. That if the father would affirm it, then the husband cannot nullify it. So holding by kasha now, that maybe who says that you have to have both the father and the husband? Maybe the husband can do it by himself. The father has the power to block it by making an affirmation, but you don't see that the husband's nullification alone is not enough. That the Gemara answers in Cain, Beisi Shana Dara Lamai Kasav Kasav Kavachomer Maba Makam Av Orus Mefer Lechudei. To see that inside, not inside, but to see that in the pasuk. Now the Gemara is doing the same thing the Gemara did before by the father. The Gemara is doing by the husband. The first parsha is talking about the father before she's married at all. The last parsha is talking about that she's nesua. She's fully married. She's in the husband's house. The same thing that the Gemara did before. It said, why if the father will be able to nullify even after she's consecrated, don't talk about the father's house before consecration, because he has the same power even after she's consecrated. The Gemara does the same pattern over here. If the halacha would be that the husband has the right to nullify even when she's consecrated, before she's fully married, before she comes into his house. So why does the pasuk talk about Beisi Shana Dara? Why does it talk about the power of the husband to nullify the wife's neder after she's in the suah? He could even nullify it by himself even when she's in arusa. The same pattern, mamish, just the mirror side. The first parsha talks about that she's not married. The last parsha talks she's not married at all. She's not consecrated. The last parsha talks about that she's fully married. She's in the suah. And the first parsha says the father can nullify. The last parsha says that the husband can nullify. If either one of them would have a power to nullify by themselves exclusively, they'd have the power to nullify even if it would be in the stage of consecration in the arusa, then it wouldn't have limited the discussion of the father only before she's married, and it wouldn't have limited the discussion of the husband only when she's in the suah. It must be that's what how the parsha goes, that the father could solely nullify only before she's consecrated, and the husband can only do it by himself only after she's in the suah. They're in the stage of eros, and you need both of them together. See that in the Gemara? In Cain, basically, why is the pasuk talk about in the third parsha? Why does it talk about the husband nullifying when she is fully married? She's in his house, but Kal v'chomer, you would have known it anyway. Ma b'makom av, always made for l'chudei. Even when there's a husband around, there's a father around. It means during the Erison stage, it's thought that the father's still around. She's still a mandyama because she's in his home, and still the Arus would be able to make without the father. So now there's no father anymore because she's already in the sewer. She's in the husband's house completely. The father's out of the picture completely. So surely he can do it by himself. It must be that the middle stage is when that's when you need both of them together. The Rush points out that there still would have been a difference that the father wouldn't be able to not to block it in this last stage. There's a kasha over there. The Gemara could have said a much simpler teretz that not a much simpler teretz. The Gemara could have knocked off this raya by saying that the father's power to block is only in the middle stage. Once she's in the sewer, he has no power to block anymore. That would be a l'chora kasha on the Gemara. Okay, but anyway, that's how the Gemara learns that this parsha is talking about the father nullifying by himself before she's consecrated. And the other part, last part, is talking about the husband nullifying himself after she's fully married. And in the middle stage, when she's in Arusa, you have to have both. You have to have both the father and the husband jointly together. The Gemara has one more kasha. Ema in Beis Yishana Dora Lomar She'en Abal Mefer B'Chodmin. Maybe the reason why he talks about the last parsha, what was the kasha? Why you have the last parsha? The husband could be made for his wife's neder alone, even if she'd be an arusa. Even if he wasn't fully married, there's only an arusa, also he'd be able to make for by himself. So why does it talk about the last parsha where it says that he's by himself? The more suggests maybe he wants to tell you this halacha we said before, the ain't about mefer b'kodman, that the husband's not able to make for a neder that she came into the marriage with the neder. It's only after if she made a neder after she was married. And that's why he says it again. But the halacha would be that he could make for a neder even when he was an orus before the nisuin, even though it was only erusin, the husband could be made for without the father. And the reason why he says this last parsha is to tell you the din that he's not made for on an earlier neder. And that the Gemara says, sorry, what did I do? There's something wrong over there. Not sure what I want to do here, but I want to stop pausing. Start again. The more answer, this is the last answer, and I finished for the day. Omi nay. Even if that's true, I was made for Bekodman. If you're gonna, the pshat wouldn't make sense. If you're gonna say that the reason why he says the last parsha is to say the Enabal made for Bekodman, and what are you gonna say? That that's the reason why he says the third parsha. But what are we rejecting that? If that would be true, then surely the Oris is surely not made for Bekodman. I'm not sure if I'm getting it now. What did the Gemara suggest? That maybe really the Baal could be made for by himself. The Baal could be made for by himself, even a Oros. And the reason why it says the third parsha is to tell you that the Baal is not made for Bekodman. But what will be? And the Oros could be made for Bekodman if the husband cannot be made for another that she came in to the marriage with, and surely the same thing will be by an Oros. I'm not getting the end of the sentence. Oros made for Bekodman. If that would be true, that the husband is not made for on early in the Nedarim, then he's surely not gonna be able to make for early in the Nedarim by an Oros. So what? I'm missing something over here. It must be I missed something over here. I didn't get this last teretz. The Gemara comes out that can't be the pshat. It must be that the reason why it has three parshas over here is because the Oros needs both the father and the husband. Maybe I can get help with the rush over here. If anybody has what to say, please do. Umashani, umine, klama, over here. Meha didashina mine, the enabal mefer bekodman, memela shamet, the orus, the chudei, eino mefer. That what? That if we're saying that the husband cannot be mefer a neder that she had before she came into the marriage, you also see that the orus cannot be mefer by himself. He needs the father also. The e mefer lechudei, if he could do it, if the orus could do it by himself, tikshi lecha. Baal eno mefer bekodman, orus mefer bekodman. How are you going to learn the pasuk that the husband who's already fully married, he cannot mefer and they had the shed before, and orus good. It's mia klomar al korchach orus mefer bekodman. Kidich sibun the real leha. He beshvil shenichnas al gami l'shusa v'nestalgim enu v'shus ha'av ura kocho. He starts here. This I didn't know that. He says here that orus is able to mefer bekodman, like it says on the real leha. I didn't know that. This is something new to me. I didn't see that. And now that she got married fully, so now he cannot be mefer bekodman. Masha shalom lafer masha yimefer b'dchiva lavado. Is that possible? Ela kochach masha yafer kocho lafer kishu orus bekodman hainu mishum shetfusei da'av shein orus yochel lafer lavado kshenasa shemefer lavado ein mefer bekodman. I think he's saying, I didn't know that, I didn't see that, I didn't understand this before, but he says that when she's an asua and basically shanadara, he only could be mefer the Nedarim that she came in, that she after the marriage, and the bekodman if she had a neder that she had already before, he cannot be mefer. And the Gemara still wants to know this drasha is that orus jointly or not. So the Gemara proves it from here. Umine, the mam is different than that. Umine, you're right that this pasuk is telling us that he cannot be mefer a neder that he had before. But from that alone, I could prove that the orus needs a joint effort of the father also, because does it make sense that the nesua, the husband should not be able to be made for earlier in the Nedarim, and the arusa, he is able to. There wouldn't be sense in that because he's more of a husband. Why? Why is it? It must be because the father's also involved. So that's the reason. That's good for the reason that the orus is able to be made for the early in the Nedarim because the father's also being made for. What does early in the Nedarim mean? That he wasn't yet this. Since she wasn't the father's rishus, that's the reason why he's able to make it a bekodman also, because the father is an authority over there. But the truth is that even if she made a neder after she became an arusa, also both of them are made. This is the first Gemara. After that, the Gemara is going to continue with more sources for this Manalan. So we finished the first Manalan. So that was one halacha we had today. That was the one halacha that the Gemara talked about how to learn the Mishnah. You might have thought that it means either one alone. The Gemara says no. And we also came with a halacha about being a kaim neder. There's a way to affirm a neder, and then usually you could retract the affirmation. But here, if there are two, the father and the husband, that once one of them affirmed it, it's impossible to be made for anymore. And the last Gemara was the Manolan and the Dash in these three psukim. The first pasuk is talking about before she's consecrated at all, it's only the father. The last pasuk is talking about after she's fully married, then it's only the husband. And in the in-between stage, in the arusa stage, you need both of them. About Kodman, it says that once she's fully married, there's not made for Kodman. The husband can't be made for the Nedarim she had on her before. And now I just found out that if she's an arusa, they could, but that itself is a right that you need the father also, because if not, then it wouldn't make sense that the husband, the nasui, the nesua, he's not able to make for Kodman, and the arusa is able to. It must be the reason is because the father's there also. And that's going to be the halacha, that at the stage of Narim Arasa, I need both the father and the husband in order to be made. Okay. Tomorrow night at 4:45. Tomorrow night at 4:45. That's Hashem.